afternoon. Pretty good the first time. My objective is to sort of entertain you, to keep you awake as well. And I've overheard a conversation between Mike and Peter that I could run on as long as, 6:30 or something. So we've got all the time in the world to actually finish this issue on culture. Is there any, guys, why are you sitting so far away? There are so many seats in the front. Who dares to sit in the front? Be a sports. There he comes. He takes the flights and he comes to the front. Very good. Thank you so much. And there's another one joining. You'll get an apple, by the way, if you join and sit in the first row here. Thank you for that. Okay, we're going to talk about culture and why culture matters in doing business. There's a risk here in terms of talking about culture given the short time frame that I have. And I usually draw the analogy between learning how to walk and learning how to be culturally competent. Have you any idea how complicated it is to walk or to learn how to walk? It takes an enormous amount of muscles and brain power to actually stop and this motion of falling forward, stopping the motion and repeating it over and over again. That's what walking is. Now, how long does it take on average to learn how to walk? 2 years? A year, more or less. We all were born and we all could not walk, but eventually we mastered the art of walking. It took us about a year. The same holds true to become culturally competent. To be fully submerged in the subject, it'll take you about a year to become culturally competent. And I've got 1 hour. So that's a bit at stake. The danger lies in the fact that a full 2-day workshop would actually make you much more culturally competent. And there, like I said, the word danger a couple of times already. After 1 hour, you're not culturally competent. And hopefully, I also hope that you will not walk away with the idea, culture, oh, that's a side product. I can do that on the side. It's not that important. Because I think that culture matters. But let me ask you yourself. If you think, please raise your hand, if you think that culture does not matter. Nobody cares to raise their hand anymore. It's okay, it's all right. I'm Dutch, you can't offend me. Right, Peter? There you go. Okay, so everybody thinks. So, if you think, raise your hand if you think that culture does matter. And there's the intermediate version as well. If you don't know if culture matters or you're not sure yet, raise your hand. So I'm speaking and preaching to the converted here already. This should be easy. Okay, I'll introduce myself, excuse me, a little bit further. My name is Chris, my last name is Smit, my nationality is Dutch, as Peter already mentioned. And as they say, is that for Zoe or for me? I don't know. She just gets applause when she walks in. All right, if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. Now, for the Dutch people, this is is all right. But there's another one which goes something like, as a finishing touch, God created the Dutch. Any good? Now the last one I know, and I'm open for suggestions as well, is that the gods created the universe and the earth and the Dutch created Holland. Which is actually pretty close to the truth because of all the dikes that we have in the low-lying countries, and the majority of the country is actually below sea level. So at least you know if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. Peter, if you're ever in dire straits, remember this slogan, okay? Where do I live? In a windmill. That's my house, of course, being Dutch. Where is my house located? It's below sea level. And what do I normally wear? My wooden shoes and traditional dress. Now, I figured I'm going to go to Abu Dhabi, Middle East, and be in front of civilized people, so I'll wear something more civilized, hence the different clothes here. Now, if you look at this introduction here, okay, my question to you is, what's the point that I'm trying to make with this introduction? Stereotypes. Yes, that was exactly the word I was looking for. Now, with the Dutch, what stereotypes are you missing about the Dutch, which are not mentioned here yet? Orange. What else?
Stingy.
Pardon?
Stingy.
Stingy. Yes. You can't offend the Dutchman. I've said it before. I'm taking 2 of these because they're free. What else? Stingy, orange. Tulips, mobile homes. They have brothels. Okay, you're a good audience. That's pretty much enough. Okay. Are there any Americans here? Anybody from the United States? Okay, what stereotypes do we have about the Americans? No passports. Okay, good, yeah. Which is actually true. The majority of the population doesn't hold an international passport. What else?
Big, bigger, biggest.
Just one at a time, please.
Loud.
Loud, thank you.
Fast food.
Fast food.
Big cars.
Big cars. Everything big. Sir?
Big, bigger, biggest.
Big, bigger, biggest. America's #1. And then is there a #2? I doubt it, really. Okay, enough about the Americans then. How about the Italians? I know there are a couple of Italians here, and I warned you already. What stereotypes do we have about the Italians?
Stylish.
Stylish. Sir, put that in your report. Are you Dutch sitting next to the Italian there?
Passionate.
Yeah, passionate. What else?
Good food.
Good food.
Pasta.
Pasta, spaghetti. Yes, mamma mia, maybe. Pardon?
Mama.
Mamma mia as well. How about the mafia? Yeah, I mean, that's on people's minds. These are stereotypes. Like, are stereotypes true or false? Some are true, some are false. Yes. In a way, they're exaggeration. Well, they're also psychological labels that we use in order to sort of go by the world and operate and in our environment, so to speak. Now, if you spend 2 days with me, then you'll be able to actually label most of the stereotypes that we have about ourselves and about other cultures in terms of cultural dimensions. So that is possible. There is a merit of truth in terms of culture where our stereotypes come from that we have of ourselves and of others as well. I wanted to make 2 points with this introduction. And by the way, I believe in death by PowerPoint. I have 60 slides for you, 1 hour, and we're on slide number 3 here. So, hold on, please. I wanted to make 2 points. One was stereotypes, and the other one was, let me put that in a question. Who thought that this introduction was funny? It's okay, it's all right. It's a bit of a question I can shoot myself in the foot with. Let's talk about humor for a second, and I'll show you this picture. And the question to you is, how would you how would you characterize, rather, the sense of humor that the Brits have? Or what are characteristics of the so-called British sense of humor? Not per se his sense of humor, but in overall, the British sense of humor. How would you characterize that? Dry, yes.
Sarcastic.
Sarcastic, yes.
Funny.
Funny, of course. What else? They laugh about themselves. In other words, self-deprecating humor. Yes? So that's a very strong characteristics about the British sense of humor. Now, contrast that with this guy's humor. Or, for those of you who do not know this guy, his name is Paul de Leeuw, and he's a Dutch presenter, singer, writer, not a writer, but a presenter and a comedian. Again, it's not about his sense of humor, but how he can describe the Dutch sense of humor compared or contrasted to the British sense of humor.
Sensitive.
Again, sensitive. Who else? Someone from the Dutch people.
Funny, great.
Funny, great, fantastic, all these kind of things. Okay, well, what you could argue about the characteristics about the Dutch sense of humor could be that it tends to be quite over the top or in your face. Would you agree with that? Yes? So it's in your face and it's not on the top, because then it's not funny enough. It has to be over the top slightly. Yes? There also tend to be within the jokes that the Dutch make a lot of sexual connotations together. Right? Right? Recognize that now? And what the Brits do in terms of making fun of themselves, the Dutch tend to make fun of other people, whether they're here or not. They don't really care, because it's more fun to make fun of somebody else than to make fun of yourself. The UK, the Netherlands, and now contrast that with this. What are characteristics of the German sense of humor?
Next slide.
That is almost funny in and by itself, isn't it?
What's so scary?
What sense of humor? Trust me, everybody gives the same answer when I ask this, yes? So there's always the question, Germans, do they have any humor? But apart from entertaining you, there's a serious undertone here as well, of course. Do Germans have humor, ma'am? Sure, natürlich. Yeah? The contradiction in terms here is, however, that for Germans, quote unquote, in general, humor is a serious business. You're laughing, but you recognize what I'm saying here. So humor is something serious. In other words, there is a time and a place to be funny. Exactly. So humor is not everywhere all the time by everyone. No. In other words, if there's a meeting, you don't start the meeting with a joke. Why not? Because the meeting is something serious. Why would you undermine something serious with a joke? Doesn't make sense. So hence you don't make jokes at the beginning of a meeting. Well, there you go. You have three countries which are geographically relatively close to each other. Now we all know that, I hope we all know, that humor doesn't translate in terms of language, right? That's already very difficult. But I believe that humor also doesn't translate in culture. And if something as mundane as humor is already not culturally neutral, then my question to you is, what is culturally neutral? I've done this for a couple of years, about 20 years or something. And so far, I haven't found anything that's culturally neutral. Of course, we all eat, we drink, and we sleep, and all these kind of things. But what we eat, when we eat, how we eat, why we eat, that's culturally determined.